Hey, hello everyone. It has been a really hot minute since we have done anything on What I'm T, it feels. I'm definitely checking because we got other bigger fish to fry. We're looking at a 5% tornado risk today, which is big enough for me to do a video. We're looking at it for many parts of the United States. We're talking about a grand total of 8 million people in this risk, and a grand fully total of 31 million people in some sort of tornado risk today. So I want to get into that right now, with the biggest risk being in places of Kentucky, Illinois, Missouri, Tennessee, all of Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. And you have a 2% risk. I mean, and Texas too, and Oklahoma. I don't know if I said those or not. But we're looking at other places with the risks of 2% in places like Kansas. These are places that don't have over 2% already. I mean, 5% already. Alabama, Illinois is, I mean, Indiana, and Ohio, and even up into Michigan. That's crazy to me. Damaging wind gust risk is a bit more broad. That we're looking at a lot more parts of Kentucky, Illinois, up into Indiana, Missouri, Tennessee, Alabama, Missouri, Louisiana, more parts of Texas and Oklahoma, and all of Arkansas. And with the hail risk, that's a lot more defined into a specific area. Places like Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Missouri have the biggest risk of hail. So we're gonna obviously get AI to summarize this because I'm not trying to. I want to close this out real quick. I'm not trying to do all that like summarization. You guys wouldn't know me for that right now. Scattered severe thunderstorms are possible mainly this afternoon and tonight across parts of the Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, Ozarks, the middle of Mississippi, and lower Ohio valleys. Damaging winds of tornadoes in Hail America. I have not really looked at too many models of this recently. I've been busy with schoolwork, but for what I have seen, um, I do because I have looked at some of it. Like I haven't done like too deep of a deep dive like we are about to. But from what I have seen, the numbers are pretty high in some areas. Right, they're relatively high. So let's check it out. We're gonna do a lot of different model runs. We're not gonna look at the HRRR, but we're gonna look at others. I'm gonna pull up the Ohio Valley here. That's where most of the risks are. If you're in the Ohio Valley region, and I want to take off here just by looking at surface-based cape. Mainly looking at the 15Z, we're looking at 15Z to about, okay, it's in single image. Ah! Okay. So we can see Cape is already starting to explode up to 2,000 in this area region. If we go to 18Z, it has exploded a lot more. We're looking at places in Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, Texas, all those regions are up to 2,000. By the time we get to 21Z, though, we can clearly see the storms have formed. Places in Texas are near 3,000 Cape. That's because the storms haven't got there yet. Missouri, Arkansas, and Texas are the main ones that are in that Cape region. But by the time we get to 0Z, the Cape is mainly dwindled out. Maybe parts in Louisiana, but that's because the storms have formed. So don't get confused. Like, no, the storms have formed by now. That's why the Cape is so low. A few other things I want to take a look at here are lapse rates. They are very important as to storm development. And fortunately, I love actually how pivotal weather does this, where you can actually see where the Cape and lapse rates overlap. And by 15Z, again, we can see up there. This is basically how you know storm development is going to begin. Jump to 18Z, yeah. No, lapse rates and everything's overlaying with each other. By the time we get to 21Z, again, same thing basically. Lapse rates up there overlaying with each other. We're gonna have a pretty active day of severe weather. Do I think that they could increase the tornado risk and just maybe even the wind risk? I'll talk about because there is a relatively high chance we can see, but by the time we're at 18Z, this sin has eroded in most areas. So we're not like maybe in some areas it might see some enough sin to maybe not make tornadoes happen, but we're not like don't bank on that. By the time we are up to with the LCLs, I think that's the biggest thing here. I honestly kind of see why they cut back in the tornado risk here because the LCLs are too high over here. But mostly over in this region, I think this is where we're gonna have the biggest risk of tornadoes, as the LCL has cut down enough. I think that's gonna be the main like determination of like this LCL stuff. Other than that, I'm not gonna check. I'm sure it's already high. Bulk shear. I'm going through every single parameter right now. Well, most at least. You can see as the storms progress, that shear is going to be high enough. We're looking at even up to 50 knots in 0 to 1, which is crazy. So there's definitely going to be enough low-level shear to produce and to suffice tornadoes. No, we're going to look at which I feel again. We're going to look at other models in a second, and there's definitely enough of high-level shear to support tornadoes. Just supercells in general. Looking at storm-related velocity at the 0 to 1 kilometers, that's going to be interesting. It doesn't really support the biggest tornado risk. When you get into Tennessee, it supports a way bigger tornado risk. But by the time we're looking at an Arkansas, where I believe the biggest risk of tornadoes is, it's not that big, like not that high. My personal opinion. But real quick, I hope everyone's having a great day today. Well, I guess today really just started. I hope everyone's had a great day yesterday. Maybe just a great week in general. I'm hoping that maybe this isn't that bad, and this anyone that lives in these regions, the 31 million people, they won't be affected too harshly. We can see though at the 0 to 3 kilometers, again, same thing. Arkansas doesn't have that big of a risk, and it really pushes into Tennessee, where we do see a much larger wind risk, but that doesn't overlay with the Cape, so that's why we're not really looking at that region. And the LCLs are way too low. Looking at 0 to 1, I mean, yeah, 0 to 1 EHI, if you have anything over 1, you got a really good chance for a tornado. And many regions over here in that Oklahoma, Arkansas, Mississippi, especially Mississippi, they reach up to 2 in some places. I mean, not Mississippi, Missouri, I apologize. Um, that's not good. Did we see 3? No, okay. I was gonna say. No, but many places in Arkansas do have that 0 to 1 risk, but as we can see here, it never reaches high enough in Tennessee, and that's because the Cape does not overlay with the stormlet of velocity. 0 to 3, you really need 2 or higher to really consider like a big risk here. And some places reaching a 3. In Oklahoma, pushing it out the day, there's clearly a big enough risk. But when you really get into that Tennessee part, I don't think we're gonna have that big of a risk to really support that storms. Super cell composite about says the same thing. Supercells would be probably very active in this region. And looking at the STP real quick, that's going to be a really good determination if I believe they need to increase the tornado risk at all. And personally, I don't see why there's even a 5%. I've been saying this the whole time when I've been looking at these numbers, and I honestly do not believe there should be a 5% tornado risk. I guess maybe some parts down into Louisiana, but that's it. Anyway, but I'm not the one to decide this. Do not, by any means, I am not the one to decide this. Okay, well, that's a huge no. You can see storm formation is already kind of beginning here, but it's not the main thing. By the time we're at 17Z, we have major storm formation, and this is going to take into a line of severe storms. So I do believe that we could see some sort of an MCS, maybe even a derecho. That's really stretching it, but that's just from one model. If we push over to NAM 3 kilometers and take a look at some certain ones. Real quick though, before we actually look at the next model, we're gonna get our outlook. Uh, this is for eastern Texas / Oklahoma, lower Mississippi Valley into Ohio Valley / the Midwest. A vigorous digging mid / upper trout stretches from the northern to central plains. A potent shortwave over the southern high plains will race east of the Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas by evening. Together, they evolve into a deep progressive trout over the Mississippi Valley by early Sunday. That's what we saw on that HRRR thing, that long line of severe storms. That's what they're mentioning here. Together, surface lows currently over northern Oklahoma, tracking northeast to level Michigan by early Sunday. The frontal structure is cold front pushing east through the plains, frontal zone extending northeast across the Mississippi Valley. Eastern Texas slash Oklahoma into lower and mid Mississippi Valley. Morning through midday, ongoing showers and slash thunderstorms from western Missouri slash eastern Kansas into western Texas. Storms to increase in coverage and intensity through midday into afternoon as the shortwave approaches. That's what we saw on the model. The HAAA suggests that. We'll look at the NAM 3 kilometers and the RFSA in a second. Environment, surface dew points in the 60s. Gradual during heating, moderate buoyancy. ML Cape 1,000 to 2,000. Uh, since the SB Cape said about 2,000 some spots, I can probably see that happening too with ML Cape. We didn't look at it though. Strengthening deep layer shear supports organized updrafts. In the afternoon and evening, initial mode, scattered supercells possible. Hazards are large hail, damaging winds, and isolated tornadoes. It's going to transition into a increased forcing and convergence line segments and bands, maintaining damaging winds and boost tornado potential. And what I didn't say, but when we looked at the HRRR, we saw those. I can kind of mention it. Those early storms, they were scattered supercells, and that's what we're looking at for the main tornado risk. By the time they converge into a line, they will become linear, and that becomes more of a damaging wind risk, which is exactly what this is saying. Storms moving into eastern Arkansas, western Tennessee, less buoyant air may cause temporal weakening. Strengthening low-level jet may re-intensify storms in the Mississippi Valley into the Gulf Coast vicinity overnight. Overnight hazards are damaging winds and a couple of tornadoes possible in the north-south central of the Gulf Coast. This is the Ohio Valley into the Midwest. This would be an afternoon into overnight threat. Isolated to scattered storms forming with heating across Missouri, Illinois, western Kentucky. Forcing increases in the evening into a line of storms expanding northeasternward. Environment is strong ascent and deep layer shear, but limited instability. Heads damaging wind gusts, which is the main risk, and a brief tornado possible, especially if low-level rotation develops in embedded updrafts. So the key hazards here are eastern Texas slash eastern Oklahoma into northern Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. This is a PM and an evening threat. Damaging winds, hail, and tornadoes. Early supercells, later MCS lines. Excuse me. Arkansas, Western Tennessee, Mississippi Valley. This is an evening to overnight threat. Damaging winds, brief tornadoes may be intensified with a low-level jet strengthening. Oh my God, excuse me. And the Ohio Valley in the Midwest. This is a late PM into overnight threat. Damaging winds, brief tornadoes, instability limited but strong shear. So that's going to be more of a QLCS, which isn't really a big tornado threat, but very big wind threat. The greatest of it, though, would be from eastern Oklahoma into northern Texas, into northern Arkansas, slash western Mississippi this afternoon and evening with organized storms and tornado potential. Secondary threat would be late damaging winds slash tornado potential near the lower Mississippi Valley and central Gulf Coast. Hold on. Guys, leaving me. Sorry about that. Marginal threat into the Midwest slash Ohio Valley, mainly for strong winds. So they didn't mention increasing the tornado risk, but I do confidently believe they increased the tornado threat. MAM 3 kilometers does not have that high of lapse rates, but they do have Cape Valley and a lot of regions. So we're gonna take a look into that real quick. Rightfully so, we can see Cape very high in many regions. It doesn't really reach 2,000 though, in too many spots. It really only reaches 2,000 in Texas and Missouri. That's interesting. The Storm Prediction Center didn't really mention like the inhibition, which is sin in a sense. So that's not going to be something that's going to hold these storms on, and rightfully so. This line here is because of the actual storms that push through. I wish I could it'd be cool if I could circle that and continue to push model numbers, but no, they're stagnant. LCL are going to be mainly low, and especially in that Arkansas region. So that's what I'm really concerned about right now is Arkansas. And our bulk shear, and that's the same thing that the HRRR was saying. It's going to be a lot of shear as it pushes through this region too. Again, it's mainly shear, less of a instability risk. So this QLCS type form. Stimulated velocity here has, again, the same thing. This one has a huge difference though. This has a lot of low level winds, which could be concerning if the Cape could increase in Tennessee. But judging from how they probably won't, we'll take a look at that in a second just to make sure. Very, very high numbers. We're talking here like over 500 in some regions. Anyway, so good grief. A lot of places are going to be over that one, so you want to keep an eye on that. This is per the NAM 3 kilometer model. If you are in any of these regions that have a tornado risk today, even the 2%, honestly, you want to take this seriously. I'm not saying like it's gonna be like a major like April 27th outbreak or anything, but this isn't gonna be some minor little inconvenience in your day. Now some places up to 3. No, oh my god, near 3. Yeah, but this is gonna be something you want to keep an eye on as the day progresses. I'm talking even by like 12:30. I know they didn't say it, but I truly believe that they're gonna increase the tornado risk, or at least they're gonna make an enhanced risk. So we can see here early that some minor storms are pushing, and even here, but by the time they truly develop, they're gonna become a line, an unorganized line to say the least. Interesting. Looking over to the RRFSA, doesn't have that, so we're just gonna push back to 9Z. I don't want to look at every single thing, but I'm gonna have to. It's not a long video, isn't it? Oh yeah, very high lapse rates by this, but the Cape doesn't as high, it appears. And this is an experiment model, so this is the only model I'm gonna say like confidently that okay, don't take this one as the most consideration. I take the NAM and HRRR model into consideration more than you're taking this. Into consideration it says not for decision making, because it's really not for decision making. I shouldn't be really showing you guys this, but I am. I'm doing it more for myself though, and I'm probably gonna do my own little investments into this. Because as the storms push by, that every single model is saying the same thing. As the storms push by, the LCLs will significantly decrease. Because the little line forms there, and as you push by, that line is what's really doing it. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna show you right there because I don't feel like showing. I don't want to look at stability for you guys. I don't want to show you guys every single this model because this model's not the most accurate compared to HRRR or the NAM. So real quick, that's basically everything for today. Looking at tomorrow, we have another tornado risk. That's only 2%. That's for that lower region. We have the wind risk up there, and the hail risk does not exist. Pretty big margin risk. For the Mid-Atlantic region. Day 3 shouldn't really pose much of a severe weather risk though. Which is good, yes. I want a break. Everybody had like a major break. I don't know what I'm talking about break here. We can see already storms are kind of forming up that line there, and we're going to continue to watch that, obviously, as the day goes on. Real quick, too, I want to get a little hurricane briefing out here because hurricane season is still going, so until it's over, I still have to talk about it. First one here, we have the 7th one. This is as of 8 a.m. on Saturday, October 18th, 2025. 30% chance of cyclone formation in the 7 days. East of the Windward Islands in the Caribbean Sea, a tropical wave located about 800 miles east of the Windward Islands continues to produce a large area of showers and thunderstorms. Gradual development of the system is possible during the next several days while it moves generally westernward at 20 miles per hour. Regardless of development, the system is expected to bring heavy rainfall and gusty winds to the Windward Islands Sunday and Sunday night, then move across the Caribbean Sea through much of the next week. 30, it's not going to form in the next 2 days, but has a 30% chance to form in the next 7 days. Watching at the second disturbance, this is as of 8 a.m. again, 10% chance of full cyclone formation in the next 7 days. A non-tropical area of low pressure system is located about 700 miles east of northward of Bermuda. There's a slight chance that the system could develop some subtropical characteristics through Sunday before it turns northeasternward over the cooler waters on Sunday. 10% chance to form in the next 48 hours and a 10% chance to form in the next 7 days. So the thing about this one is actually the nor'easter that pushed through the Mid-Atlantic. My heart goes out to anybody that was affected by that, especially in New Jersey. I know the coast got destroyed, basically. And I hope everyone's okay through all that. I truly do. I know it was pretty bad. I didn't go through much. I didn't go through anything out of it really. But I really hope everyone's okay. We're gonna check the GFS model now to get an outlook on just what we can expect for hurricanes. We'll look at the ECM too real quick. You can see it even has that line really going, pushing into the mid-Atlantic. But when it comes to really any hurricanes, we're not really looking at much. Ignore that thing at the bottom there. That's something, I swear. No. But really, I'm not looking at much of any hurricanes. And we're already past the point where we really can confidently say this is a good run by the GFS here. Anything past 120 is really bad. Look at the ECM now too, just to be accurate. Um, Again, it's really now we're just past that point where and this stuff is a lot less accurate. I want to go back to this real quick. This is actually really cool because you don't see this too often. This is probably not going to happen, but I want to show you guys how cool this is. The high pressure system here and the low pressure system here, these two are going to interact. And you don't see this happen too often. But look at the blocking. It's trying to push to this region, and obviously eventually does. But the high pressure system is blocking it from doing that. Obviously, eventually it pushes away, so that now that low pressure system can push all its stuff through. But that's probably not going to happen. That's really cool because models don't really show that often. That's all there is to talk about, though. I think I've gotten everything out that I need to. Stay weather aware, and I do think I will be live today. Probably soon, honestly. Probably within the next 2 to 3 hours. I'll see you guys soon. Bye bye.